episode 10. There might be a spoiler alert in the background here because I forgot to film an intro, as usual. We're just going to give it all to you right now. This is what we're going to get done. We're going to get the back on. Yep. We're going to get the frets in. Inside's painted. Ton of sanding. A bunch of body work. That might be it, but honestly, that was a lot of work. A whole lot of work. I'm really excited about where it's at. I hope you guys are too. I gotta warn you, this video hops around a little bit from one task to another and then back to the other task, because that's just kind of how I did the work. I worked on fretting for a while till I couldn't take it anymore, and then I switched to putting the back on, then I switched to sanding, then I switched to fretting, and anyway, sorry. I was all over the map. I tried to make this video as organized as I could for you, but it's a little chaotic, but I think you'll like it anyway, because we get a lot of cool stuff done. Very excited about the progress. Here we go. Let's start with some fretwork. I think I'm going to go with stainless on this one instead of the nickel. All right, since I'm going to do stainless frets, I'm just going to use some crummy old nail cutter pliers, because, man, this stainless stuff, it's just hard on your tools. I mean, it's really hard. Whenever I use stainless, I tend to cut these to the exact length. When you do stainless and you try and clean them up after you put them in, it just messes up your fretboard. That stuff's so hard to work with that I have a hard time getting it really clean on the edges and keeping my fretboard really nice with this nice rolled edge. My helper always lays right in the sawdust, the messiest spot she can find to lay, and that's where she lays. Be a luthier, they said. It's fun, it's challenging, it's rewarding. Yeah. How many frets does this guitar have? Good night. It's all rounded over on the end, and I've clipped the tang back ever so slightly so that it doesn't stick out past the end of the fret slot and doesn't have any sharp ends on it. Now what we got to do is finish smoothing over these corners and make them all match, and then we'll test to make sure every single one of them is the exact right length. If not, then a little bit more sanding, a little bit more work to get each one the right length, and then they can go in the guitar. I wonder what a 9 fret resonator would sound like. That sounds great right about now. The good news, 6 and 7 were perfect. Didn't need any adjusting whatsoever. Well, that was definitely like killing one bird with 3 stones. That took forever, but I just finished the last one. Glory hallelujah. Okay, getting a few things done. I got the cap on the heel. That's super cool. I like that a lot. It might be a little too tall. Maybe I'm going to shave it down, or maybe not. I don't know yet. I want to drill the hole in the back now, and I want to drill the holes in the top, and I've got a hole to drill right there in the sound well. Holes. Let's put some holes in it. I don't know why these 7 holes in this guitar make me so happy, but they just do. I guess it's just a sign of forward progress. All right, I feel like this is a big moment for this guitar. I've got the end pinned in, screwed into the neck. I've got one of the screws in right there on the sound well, and I've got one in on the neck there. I'm pretty excited about that. I feel like that's a pretty cool moment on this guitar. I'm getting really close to painting the inside now. I want to paint the inside of the guitar where you can't really see it, because I don't want it to rust. I'm probably going to take this neck back out and tape it all up. Flat black, here we come. So this tape that you see on here, it's a 1/2 inch down all the way around the edge so that I can have bare metal to solder to there. Actually, it's pretty cold in here, so I am just going to let it sit here and heat for a second and get the metal a little bit warmer. Yep, that's all black. That's going to be good. I left the edge unpainted. That's where the back gets soldered in. I'm sure that the soldering job is going to mess up this paint job slightly, but I would rather have the paint job slightly messed up on this edge and have the inside all painted than not have it painted and have it rust. So I did use a flame-proof paint on here, so it shouldn't catch on fire when we solder it. I'm happy with the black. I think that was the right choice so far, and until I decide that that was the wrong choice, we're going to keep moving forward with that. Okay, let's talk neck attachment here for a second. I like this spacing I have on my dots here. If you look at National's resonators, their dots are quite a bit closer out to the very edge of the fretboard, and I don't like that look. I like it, I don't know, I just like it better the way I have this one laid out. Now, the problem that having these dots spaced like this presents is that, you know, National, they take wooden blocks and they stick them under the, here, you know, under the top, and they screw through their dot holes into those wood blocks that they slide under there. When you take the neck off, those wood blocks just come out, and you just got to stick them in there with your hand and all of that, which I'm sure is fine. It's great. But the reason I think that their dots are so far out is because they have to clear the neck stick, the width of the neck stick, and still have enough meat on this block that goes underneath for the screw to screw into. So that means their neck stick is pretty narrow and these dots are pretty widely spaced, all just to get a nice bite into this wood block that's underneath. I don't want a super skinny neck stick for some reason. Maybe I'm going to learn later that all of my thinking here is the wrong thinking, but for now, that's my thinking. And I really don't like that wide dot spacing. So I'm going to solder to the top those nuts with the little, I don't know, spiky washers on them, the little lock washers. I'm going to solder those to the top on the back side, and then I have these Allen head bolts that will screw through those into those nuts that are soldered to the top. So this middle one is still going to screw into the neck stick, you know, the wood part of the neck stick, which is good. Okay, I think I'm ready to solder the nuts onto the other side. So I've got the Allen head bolts in there holding the nuts nice and firm against the back of the top. And I've sanded off the paint on my nice paint job so that I can solder these on there. I guess I should have done that first, but I forgot. I've acid etched both the nuts and the top, and so we should be good to go. Okay, that got hot, but it didn't warp. Everything's nice and straight still. We're done. We're just about ready to put the back on. Okay, the final piece of this neck fitment puzzle is the heads on my little Allen nuts are just barely too big to fit in the size holes for the dot markers. So what I've done is I've stuck one in the lathe press. I've chucked it up in there, and we're going to turn that thing on and take a file to it and get it down to the size we need. So I was making faster progress with that on my spindle sander, so I just did it on my spindle sander, and those now fit beautifully in there. That's it. I'm just gonna make 3 more. I'm gonna put the neck in now for the last time before we put the back on. Well, that's it then. Shall we put the back on? Got all the Allen heads in there and the wood one that goes through the middle of the neck. That one's in, the end pin is in. That's a big milestone. Okay, let's do the back, I think. I'm going to think about it for about 3 minutes, maybe 4, and decide whether it's time to do the back or not. I think it is, though. Here we go. Starting to think. The thinking went well, and the thinking led to excitement to get the back on, and that led to me soldering the back on without ever turning on the camera. If you want to know how to solder these things, or at least how I did it, go back to, I think it's episode 6, and you'll see how to solder the top on. Okay, one quick update on the soldering. My wife and I were watching the Mill Resonator YouTube channel, and they have an episode on there called Building Charlie Parr's Resonator. Go watch it if you haven't seen it, if you like Resonator stuff. In the very first 15 seconds or so of that video, they show them soldering the top or the back. I don't know which. You can't tell. It's very zoomed in. One of the things you can really clearly see is they're using acid core solder. I had tested using acid core solder early on when I was trying to figure out how to solder these, and for whatever reason I just ended up using the muriatic acid. But I thought, boy, if Mill is using the acid core, then I should revisit that and give it another go. So I used the acid core solder to solder the back of the guitar on, and I gotta say, it worked a lot better. It went on nice and smooth. It had a lot less porosity in it. It didn't have all the little bubbles and little holes that I'm gonna have to go back and fill later. If you're following along at home and you're building your own resonator and you're using this as a guide, sorry, but I don't know anything else out there you can use as a guide, so good luck. If you're at episode 6 and you're getting ready to solder in your top, hopefully you've jumped ahead to episode 10 and you've learned that acid core solder is better and it'll be less work. There you have it, acid core solder for the win on these things. You can see it's just the alpha acid core, made in Mexico. There you go. Anyway, I have very little cleanup to do on this one, especially compared to the front. I had to do quite a bit more little touch-up spots and little filling some porosity and stuff on the front than I'm going to have to do on the back of this one. In fact, I still have some left to do on the front. On this one, I ended up using the muriatic acid and the acid core solder, so I'm double acided on this thing. Man, we're making progress. Okay, let's keep going. I don't know what's next. I'm going to think about that, and then you'll find out as soon as I do it. Okay, welcome to the indoor shop. This is where I do repairs, assembly, just stuff that's not dirty, no grinding, sanding, cutting, drilling, you know what I mean. Just have a workbench set up in here. The working side of the bench looks more like this. It's got all the tools and things you need. Got, you know, radius gauges and fret levelers and, you know, just stuff. All the sanding radius blocks down there. Cool to finally see a different background than what you're usually seeing. Inside here is just all the tools that go along with the indoor shop. A lot of specialty guitar tools and stuff in there. Wall of amplifiers that don't ever get used. A bunch of body. Anyway, you get the idea. I want to try and make the tailpiece. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a good one or not, but I want to try and make one. And so that's kind of what I'm laying out here. I found this piece of scrap metal, has a hole in it there that I had to avoid. It already had this curve cut in it, and I kind of like that curve. Anyway, it's going to get some bead rolling and some other stuff. I have my doubts that this first one's going to be a usable piece, but I think we're going to learn a bunch from making this first one, and we'll see where we go from there. So that's what we're working on. Tailpiece. Okay, here's where I'm at with the tailpiece. Those black lines, so this one, these three curves here, and those two curves there are going to get bead rolled. What I'm kind of struggling with is which roll do I do first? I'm thinking I do the down one first, and then I'll still be able to get the tipping dies through here. But I think if I do the outside ones first, I won't be able to get the down one in there because these will be up too high. Yeah, that's got to be right. I'm hoping that's right. Then once I do those three, I can do these two curves on here and then figure out how this end comes together, and then we got to bend it over and on and on and on. This is actually going better than I had thought it was going to go, but I still don't know that this is going to be a keeper. But we're learning. I'm learning a lot. Here we go, bead roll. It's not horrible, but it's not perfect. So I may just keep working this a little bit more. I don't know, actually it's not bad. Let's leave it like that for now. Let's try the tipping die ones. So it did exactly opposite of what I thought. So now this is the top instead of what I thought was going to be the top here. So now I'm going to put the curved bead roller back in and see if I can do these two arcs. Well, I'm going to call that a fail. I put a lot of time and energy into that, but in the end, it's just not that good. I learned a lot doing that. It was great practice and great experience getting it flat and smooth and doing the bead rolling on it and stuff. And yeah, it would work, but it just doesn't look great. Gonna buy one of those. That one didn't work. All right, it's a new day out here today, and I'm on the struggle bus a little bit. My youngest son talked me into getting on the motocross track with him yesterday, and I am sore. Oh, I'm sore. Anyway, I'm fighting through it. What are we going to do today? We're going to work on frets. I want to get all the frets in today. So I got everything out here ready to go on that, including some coffee. I need it today. I would really like to spray some finish on this neck today because I could probably get the frets in and get this thing ready for paint, except that it started raining today. I have a humidity gauge on my ceiling. It is 67%, and that's a little high for spray and lacquer. So I probably can't spray today. It's just too much humidity in the air, and you end up getting, you get little white, clouds and stuff in the clear when you spray in too high of a humidity. So that's probably out for today, but we can get some other stuff done. As much as it's brutal to do the frets this way, where you do all the sanding and do all the fretwork and everything before you put them in, the end result is, to me, it's so much better. I mean, I know people are really good at doing it after you smash them in there and then cleaning up all the edges. As soon as these frets are pressed in, we're done. There's no more fretwork to do on this. There's no more damage to do to the fretboard. I don't know. I like this method. If you're a builder and you've never tried this method, I would say just give it a try once and see what you think. Okay, fretwork is done. It's like done. It doesn't need really anything. It's just some polishing. That's the beauty of doing this fretwork the way we did it. All the ends are done and smooth and nice. Nothing sharp on any of them. It needs very little work. It just really needs polishing. So that's it. That's the process for that. Okay, what are we going to do now? I don't know. I was too tired to do anything yesterday when we got back from the track, and so all I had the skill to do was sand, and so I worked on sanding this thing. I have been thinking a lot about just putting together like a build plan for this thing, because I know the next time I do one of these, I want to do some things different. I'm for sure going to put the back on before the top next time, because the back is a complex shape and it could use some hammer and dolly work, but once you have the top on, you can't do any hammer and dolly work on the back. And the front doesn't need any hammer and dolly work because it's just dead flat. So I think I did that out of order. I should have put the back on first. Live and learn. Next one's going to be better, and the one after that will be better. I think the next thing I need to do on the body is really just finish up filling any little imperfections on the solder job, because there are a couple of little spots on the solder job that need some filling, some little things done, and then just try and get those two edges cleaned up as well as I can. Like you can see on this one, there's spots where the solder, I'd like to get that consistent all the way around if I can. I'm trying to get this edge to not have any more porosity in it, and I'm getting super close. It's just been sanding. The things I've learned about metal work and all of that, like, man, it's kind of actually fun. I've got this thing super smooth. I've got a low spot right here. I don't know what I'm going to do with that little low spot. I mean, it's not big, but it is definitely a low spot. I don't know how to get that out yet, but who knows? I don't know. This was sanded to 320 at one point, but I'm all the way back to 120 now, because there was just some scratches that I couldn't get out. The less you can hit your guitar with 80 grit, I know 80 grit makes your current self super happy, but 80 grit makes your future self super sad. Try and avoid 80, just work through the 120. The 80 grit scratches are really hard to get out of this stuff. I mean, really hard. Okay, that's my advice so far. Alright, I'm going to leave us off there for now. Sorry the making of this piece failed. I probably should have just cut that out of the video, but I thought, well, I learned a ton doing it, so maybe somebody else can gain something from what I learned there too. So I threw that in. Sanded to 600 on the front, I think 320 on the sides, and we're still only sanded to about, I think I'm only sanded to 120 on the back. So a lot of sanding left to go there. That's probably what I'm going to be doing this whole next week, is sanding this darn thing. I haven't figured out what we're going to do for a finish yet. Can we clear coat it? I guess we could spray a coat of lacquer clear on this thing. Hopefully the humidity comes down and we can get some lacquer on the neck and finish that thing up. Nice to have the frets in there and have that all done. Yet again, we're super close. I'm going to say next episode we might be able to play it, but it won't be done. We'll have to blow it back apart and then do a bunch of finish work and stuff. But we might even be able to hear it next episode. We'll see how the sanding goes and how the other things go. I got a bunch of excellent comments, a couple that deserve a shout out, and I wish I could remember the names. One person mentioned that they had gone to the National Factory and they saw the guy do the soldering on here. And after he was done soldering, he said he would go back over it and heat it up and hit it with some sort of wet cloth or a damp cloth. That was awesome. I didn't do that on this because I forgot you made that comment until just a little bit ago, and I tried it. I just used a wet paper towel actually just to see what would happen. Man, that was super cool. That really that cleaned up nice. It smoothed everything nicely with the wet. It was awesome. The other one, I can hear Buck Rogers screaming at me already that I forgot the white stripe here underneath the wedge on the fretboard, but in the end, Buck, sorry, I just didn't want to put the white one on there. I liked how it just stopped at the body and travels down the neck. I didn't want it to keep going down the fretboard, so I didn't put it on. I know, I could hear you screaming at me when I was doing it, but sorry. Anyway, really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time.